Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Across an Ocean of Stars by Robert E. Hampson. This is one of the books, a standalone, in the world of The Black Tide Rising, which was a zombie series started by John Ringo. John Ringo wrote a series of books in this, then he wrote like a sequel series with Mike Massa, and then he's let other people write in his world. He's had Chuck Gannon write in it, he's had Jason Cordova, he's had Gary Poole do some short story collections with him, and then now we have Across an Ocean of Stars. And I read last year in October, I read Jason Cordova's standalone Mountain of Fire, which was fantastic, superb. I loved it from front to back. It was just a superb reading experience. And so I was excited when they said, yeah, we got more Black Tide Rising books coming. In fact, they have 3 Black Tide Rising books releasing this year from Baen, which I'm really excited about. And so I was excited also that Robert Hampson was getting to write one of the books. Robert Hampson is a scientist, also writes books. I actually interviewed him about his previous work last year at DragonCon back in like 2023. So just look up Robert E. Hampson interview Jonathan Cohn. You'll find it. That was great to talk with him. But now I've read one of his books. And I was very excited because it's zombies. It's got just a bizarre concept of being set in Hawaii. Not exactly what you would expect the book to be set in, but it's set in Hawaii. And it is basically split up into 4 stories. It is almost like novellas. This book is pitched as a novel, but it should have been a novella collection by Robert E. Hampson, because each novella pretty much feels like its own separate story because they each have a different POV character. Occasionally in this book, you will see a character from a previous book story show up in a later story, but pretty much each part of the book is its own novella and almost reads like a novella because it's got a pretty good beginning, middle, and end. And so as I mentioned, there's 4 parts. The first part is the most highbrow thinking part of the book, and that is about some scientists who are in this observatory that are basically simulating what it'd be like to be in space on a long-term mission because they're prepping for that. And that's when the zombie outbreak happens, and they have to figure out, how are we going to get resources? How are we going to resupply? How are we going to survive as a zombie apocalypse happens? That's the first part of it. The second part of the book is about some people who have fended off some zombies. They are starting to rebuild civilization, and it's about them scrounging for resources. It's about them reforming society and figuring out how is society going to operate. The third part of the book features a military group which is going on some missions on behalf of this group that's trying to reform the United States military. And then the fourth part of the book just kind of ties it all together and brings in some characters from the previous stuff, and also finishes out like the story of like rebuilding Hawaii. And I really liked parts 2 and 3. Parts 1 and 4 I felt were pretty weak. Part 1 in particular, it felt like it spent way too much time with it, and it felt like the story was too different. I know what Robert E. Hampson was going for here, but part 1 is focused so much on these scientists, it should have been cut down to maybe a chapter or 2 from the scientist perspective, and then we should have sent the rest of its page count to part 4, because part 4 felt very underdeveloped to me and felt like they could have done more in that part. And then you have parts 2 and 3. Part 2 is my favorite in the book because I really liked the plot. It was what I actually expected the most out of the book, which is people fighting back the zombies and trying to figure out how to survive. And part 3 in the book has the most memorable characters, because there's 2 characters who have kind of fallen in love, but they don't know how are they going to repopulate the earth. And they also don't know how is their love going to work when they're there's a zombie apocalypse going on, and is it worthwhile to really invest in their relationship. That part 3, I loved that storyline with those characters, and I really felt for them. And Robert E. Hampson has a lot of fake outs in this book, and I was like, oh no, and I was like, oh who, and then I was like, oh no, like he does a really good job with that in the book. By the way, this cover by Kurt Miller I think is pretty cool. If you don't know the Black Tide Rising series, you might out of pocket be like, well, what? That's kind of strange. But this actually makes sense, and this happens in the book. In part 4, this zombie shows up in this specific way, and it's actually pretty funny. There is a zombie king, you could say. That's all I'll say about it. There's a zombie king in the book. That was really cool. And it actually turns it so that you actually have kind of a villain, which was kind of cool. But as I said, parts 2 and 3 were great. Part 1 and 4 were not so great. And so the book just feels very mixed. It feels like a very mixed experience reading this book. And I'm sure, and this is only Robert E. Hampson's second novel that he's done. His first was The Moon in the Desert, which I haven't read yet. I own it, but I haven't read it. And so I understand that he might still be getting his sea legs because it's it's the okay. He might be getting his sea legs, but it's still a competent novel. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's not great as a book reading experience, but it was fine, and it's a worthwhile inclusion into the Black Tide Rising series. So that is my review of Across an Ocean of Stars. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think of the Black Tide Rising series, and which one should I read next? Let me know those comments down below, and until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.